how can symbolism make the world, or interpretation, whatever, symbolic study, make the world a more magical place? You've mentioned something to that
Yeah.
effect before.
Well, I think that so the thing about reality, I talked a little bit about how reality works. The way we encounter reality is that our
Mm-hmm.
consciousness groups things together into patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just how it works. Like we engage the world in narrative and in pattern, and so once you become aware of that, okay, once you start to see it and when you start to be aware of the basic patterns that are in stories, what happens is that they actually start to manifest themselves in your life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually start to live in a world that's patterned. And then it becomes really freaky.
Yeah.
Like weird things start to happen. People are used to
Mm-hmm.
the word synchronicity, let's say,
Yes. Yeah.
and you'll see those things start to kind of fit together, and your life starts to take on. That's what I mean by a kind of a magical thing, because all of a sudden all these events start to coalesce around you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're not even doing anything, and then you it's weird. Like it gets really weird. Like sometimes you'd say you're thinking about something or you're reading about something, and then you get up, go to the store, and then all of a sudden there's this glaring sign that is, it's like exactly what you were reading in the book, and like the world just starts to fit in these strange patterns. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
really, it's hard to describe to people because people will think like it's
Yeah.
just your imagination. But it's real. Like it's actually real. Like
Yeah.
I'll give you an example that happened to me just the other day, which is very strange. So I made this icon of Jonah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I made this big icon of Jonah coming out of the whale, and I put it up on Twitter, and I was like, I finished the icon. When I finish an icon, I always put it up on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just the next morning that I found out that I'd put it up on the feast day of Jonah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, it's a really
Uh-huh.
little thing,
Sure.
but then when your whole life starts to be full of those, like it
Mm-hmm.
just happens all the time. It's like, wow. You don't even have to tell people, like I'm telling you because you're asking me, but you just kind of have to, you go through, and it's like, it's this joyful kind of, it gives you this confidence in life and this confidence in the fact that you're moving in a in a direction. I mean, it's not just about studying symbolism. It has more to do with living forthrightly and
Mm-hmm.
living kind of like Jordan Peterson talks about, this idea of living in truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add living in prayer and living, and kind of living a deliberate life instead of just being kind of floating in the ocean and just letting yourself go back and forth between your different desires, let's say.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it really, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like when I started studying Saint Christopher, I got really intensely into it, and I actually I wrote all this stuff about him. I wrote like a screenplay on his life, and I did all of this stuff. And as it was happening, it was absolutely crazy. Like, like I can't believe I'm telling you this, but let's say
It's,
because there's a symbolism. Do you know what a sundog is?
no, I don't think so. Or
Okay, so a
maybe.
sundog is when three suns appear in the sky. Have you ever seen that?
Okay. I have not seen that, but
All
I
right,
have
okay.
heard of
So the symbolism of the sundog in, like, let's say, Native American
that.
traditions
Mm-hmm.
has to do with everything Saint Christopher is related to. Has
Hmm.
to do with like the idea of the end of the world, this idea of the edge of the world, and everything. And so I was doing research again. I read about these sundogs and about Saint Christopher. It's like while I was doing this, in like 1 year, I must have seen like 15 sundogs. Like I just saw them all the time. It was almost like every week I would look up in the sky and there was three suns up in the sky. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a rare phenomena, but for some reason I was seeing them all the time. Like it has to do with a rainbow around the sun, but in
Mm.
a certain way
Mm-hmm.
that it's placed. It's
Yeah.
like when the sun is at a certain height, it appears as like three bright spots in the sky. And it was like I just kept seeing them like
Yeah.
all the time. So it was like, that's really crazy.
It is interesting how when you're like, I don't know, somehow when you're in what people would call a Zen state or just in this mode of being where I don't know, you're aiming higher, your direction is in a certain orchestrated manner, that you do start noticing those things a lot more. You can anyway, and it can make the world much more interesting and magical, or whatever you want to call it. I certainly used to call it synchronicity myself, and I noticed it a lot, especially after taking psychedelics. It came out to me a lot, but and now it's more when I'm in tune and doing things, yeah, in a certain manner, I can be, I don't know, I start seeing those things more. It's really interesting, and I could sit down and scientifically break it down into some sort of coincidence type thing, maybe, but certainly doesn't make it more useful or fun to think about.
Right. So here's a way to blow your mind, is that when you're in tune with things completely, it's like you're in the pattern, right? You're participating in the pattern, and in a way, it's like the causality becomes muddled between what you're causing, how you're being caused. It's like it's not muddled in the sense that it becomes unified in your experience. Those things become one. And so if you take that a lot further, because here we are, these little losers, like we're not great spiritual masters, but if you take that times 1,000, times 100, like what that could mean and what a miracle could mean, if you just meditate on that just a little bit, you'd be surprised like how that could really come together in something which is beyond what my little sundog visions are.
Sure.